I wrote most of this video back in May, and I kind of hoped it would lose relevance. Oh well. This video in content and tone are highly inspired by PBS Ideas channel. And so we'll begin with, here's an idea. We've all been conflating ubiquitous with public. Especially in the quarantines, the internet and its plethora of services has been a great boon to our collective psyches. Artists of all media have been able to share their art in a more public way through Facebook Live, YouTube, or Periscope. Plays, movies, concerts, live or pre-recorded, this seems like a great time for the publicization of media. Museums, too, making virtual their collection and often their physical space. The infamously restrictive Ghibli Museum is showing pieces of itself through a new YouTube channel, and you can Google Street View the National Air and Space Museum. We also get to somewhat continue our communities through programs like Zoom, and best of all, everything I mentioned above is freely available. And this has often been the effect of the internet. Back in March, Vice reported on the Minecraft library, which is host to banned works from around the world, which serves as a tunnel around firewalls, and sometimes real fire. With a downloadable server map, the banned book library ensures that censored texts can remain publicly available. But at what cost? In terms of the Minecraft library, the price of a game, which varies system to system, but a computer copy will currently run you about $30 US. I had said everything I already mentioned prior are free, but dollar price alone does not price make. As its use among businesses and schools boomed, the New York Times reported that Zoom logs and sends LinkedIn data to hosts even when you've not logged in with your LinkedIn account to link in. Vice 2 reports that the iOS app in particular sends data to Facebook whether or not you have a Facebook account. So what, you may say, that's just how the internet operates, but I think it does us good to imagine outside of that. Expand what we think of as possible past internet where free means free plus data. Additionally, it's not just individual use. Corporate pressures affect all those who use it, like the Minecraft library. Minecraft as a venue works precisely because so many people can access it, but that doesn't give it the same protections as if it were public. Folks working on the library have noted certain server hosts have expressed reluctance towards supporting the project because they don't want to ruin business relationships with clients based in China. Ubiquity has also led public schools to require students to attend class through Zoom, which might be tunneling their data to LinkedIn, Facebook, or now the police. This is all contingent too on whether or not students even have access to the internet. The Denver Post reported on a phenomenon known as the homework gap or the digital divide. As schoolwork becomes increasingly dependent on internet resources, schools are ill-funded to address the nearly 1 in 5 students without home access to a computer or broadband internet, which has led students to study for classes in the parking lot of restaurants with free Wi-Fi. As said in the video that helped inspire this one, the internet isn't a place. It's a process that functions like a place. And in terms of places, the internet is functioning less like a public space and more like a gated community. Ubiquity serves to equate free with public and allows companies to pressure towards the monetizable aspects of the platform. Take Fortnite, for example. The game is free to play, but the game's systems pull you to the monetization aspects. As Dan Olson of Folding Ideas describes in his video on the subject, in order to feel like a full and active participant, you need to be able to perform. The catch is that literally every unique action has an attached price tag. Is this just the fate of the internet, though? The tools to run anything have a cost, and so maybe if we're going to have an interconnected, public, free internet, this is just the price we pay. I don't buy that argument, though. If you did your homework, this will sound familiar, but the internet isn't a place. The internet is a technological process, a bunch of technology designed and built by people. These are all decisions people make, and that we continue to make, and that we maintain. And so there is no fundamental reason that the internet has to be this way. It's just the policies of places like Twitter, YouTube, Facebook, etc. One alternative is to change the policies, decentralize the decision-making from monolithic companies, some might say monopolies, into your own platforms. This is exactly the thought behind Mastodon, a Twitter alternative advertising itself as Twitter but without the Nazis. The code to run Mastodon is open source, meaning available for anyone to see, pick up, use, and alter for themselves. Anyone can, in spirit, create their own social media and run it how they like with minimal knowledge of code necessary. These sites can link themselves to other sites that use the code, called instances, into federations, groupings of connected but independently run and moderated instances. This decentralization has allowed the Mastodon system to thrive as a place or process for experimentation, and as a bastion for the marginalized. Speaking from experience, so many furries have found community on Mastodon sites, especially in the early years. This is possible through the trust many instances build with their users, like my home cyber.space requiring community approval of new moderators, almost like elected officials. But the margins exist on all ends of social and political spectra. Gab, a Chan-like site with similarly non-existent levels of moderation, migrated to a Mastodon instance. Even though on Mastodon Prime Nazis are banned, the nature of open source means anyone can pick it up, or else it isn't open. Connection through federation makes Mastodon instances a double-edged sword, as they leave you outside of the trust of your home instance and into the trust of moderators and users of every connected site. But it also means that you can isolate a site, and even most apps that host the Fediverse, as it's called, block the Gab instance altogether. This is how decentralization and open source can build a better internet. By uncoupling access to decision-making from the motives of profit, everyone gets to make a space for themselves, and which spaces get connected, get brought into the mainstream, is democratized rather than privatized or made universal. This is not to say Mastodon is without its incidents, but the problems can be mitigated by allowing people to make their own space. It is important to note open source is still not public. Many Mastodon instances ask for payment to offset the cost of hosting the site and its data, while others cap the number of users, set up Patreons, or have other means of funding free from advertising and data collection. Patreon, though, is another example of ubiquitous rather than public, but it's a step towards public, and a healthy alternative as more people can influence more directly than the whole of the federal government. It also provides a venue separate from government-backed, government-controlled media, much like how it's government ideas of media and free speech that originally censored the writing in the Minecraft library. It is good to have an alternative means. Open source and federation can be a path both outside private company control and government censorship. But we still haven't talked about what public may actually look like, and we're going to in our next video. That's right, this is a two-parter, and I hope you join me next time as we get a little bit more experimental. So what do you think? Are we mistaking public for ubiquitous? Does open source replicate the effects of public? Let me know in the comments, and maybe I'll take this inspiration a little bit further and make a comments response video. Your content.